Good day everyone. Today's video concerns all three of my AT computers. The Turbo 486, the Atlantic 486, and the Socket 7 Mini Tower. So, I have all three of these computers and I got an idea, and what I want to do is gut all three of these, just completely disassemble them, rearrange all the hardware components, not only hardware components that are currently in them, but go through some hardware components, some loose hardware components that I have as well, and I want to rebuild all three of these computers with what I think would be more appropriate hardware. I got this idea because of these two computers on the outside. This thing has a Socket 7 motherboard, but it's a case clearly meant for a 486 motherboard, Socket 3, because it's got a turbo button. And that Socket 7 motherboard obviously does not have a turbo feature, so this turbo button goes to waste. The opposite situation's with this computer. This computer has a Socket 3 motherboard with turbo functionality. However, it has no turbo button. So that turbo functionality is going to waste on that motherboard. And you know, you can argue that turbo is a useless feature anyway. I would agree. I've never even heard of a situation where it was actually useful to turn turbo off on one of these machines. It's useful on like the 8088 and 286 machines, but anything faster than that, and I don't think turbo serves any purpose because the processor still goes too fast to properly run really old 8088 software. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, the bulk of this project is to swap the motherboards in these two computers so that they suit each other more. You'd have the motherboard with the turbo function in the case with the turbo function, and the motherboard without the turbo function in the case without the turbo function. But I'm also stringing the Turbo 486 in all this because, you know, in addition to that, both of these computers, especially that one, have expansion cards in them that I do not like. I don't think they are appropriate for the computer they are in, and I want to put some new expansion cards in, put a different video card, different sound card in these machines. And of course, now that I have, you know, like a second 486 machine, now I got that, so now I have two 486 machines, so I want to optimize them such that one 486 machine has appropriate hardware for one particular operating system or circumstance, and another 486 machine has appropriate hardware for another operating system. So that's where I'm going with all this. So we're going to be playing musical computer parts with all three of these computers today, and I'm pretty excited. So let's get to work. So first thing I'm going to do is just open up all the cases. Alright, all three computers are open. Now just to freshen your memories, here's the specs of all of them. First of all, the Turbo 486, which I got in my last year of high school. It's based on a PC Chips M919 motherboard with fake cache chips, and it's got an AMD AM5X86 processor running at 133 MHz. However, because I had to steal the fan off it to put in this machine, I have decided to underclock it to 75 MHz, so it's currently running at 75 MHz. It's got 64 megabytes of RAM and a 1.2 gigabyte hard drive. For the video card, I've got an ATI Mach 64 PCI video card. It's a non-3D accelerated video card, the last video card ATI ever made without 3D acceleration. Sound card is a Creative Labs Sound Blaster AWE64 ISA. And I have an Ethernet card, the wonderful Realtek RTL 8139 100 megabit PCI network card. And that's it. Just a CD-ROM and a floppy. Actually, it's a CD burner, but I don't burn. I just have it in there because it's capable of reading CDR and RW disks. Now this machine. This is also based on a PC Chips M919 motherboard. A slightly different revision though. This one doesn't have the fake cache chips on the board, but it still does pretend that it has cache. This has an IBM 5X86C processor running at 100 MHz. It's a rebranded Cyrix CX5X86. This one has 36 megabytes of RAM, because this is a different version of the M919 motherboard. Instead of having 4 72-pin RAM slots like this one does, this has 2 72-pin RAM slots and 4 30-pin RAM slots. And this one has a 2.1 gigabyte hard drive, floppy, and CD-ROM. The video card in this is a Explorer Multimedia Video Pro 64FX. Terrible card. I cannot get it working. Looks like it might be a nice card if it worked correctly. It's got 3D acceleration, but I can't get it to work at anything higher than 640 by 480. It makes my monitor throw up a unsupported signal error. It's a non-standard card, a very proprietary, very strange card. It's coming out. I'm not going to use it. Same for the sound card. The sound card is a combination sound card and modem. The sound portion is an Aztec AZT2320 with Yamaha OPL3 emulation, which would make it a really nice sound card, but I can't get it working. I've tried 3 different sets of drivers, and I can't get it working in Windows 95. I have, however, gotten this card to work under Windows 2000. The modem portion's a Rockwell modem, and Windows 95 apparently detected it correctly. So yeah, I'm not going to be using this card either. If Windows 98 supports this card alright, I might use this on the Socket 7 machine. Not that video card though, I can't even get that video card working in Windows 2000. And then last, for the Socket 7 machine, this has a DTK motherboard, a DTK model PAM0055i. It has a Cyrix 6x86 processor running at 120 MHz, 64 megabytes of RAM. It has 4 72-pin RAM slots, and a 2.1 gigabyte hard drive, as well as floppy and CD-ROM. For the video card, this thing has a very underpowered video card for a Socket 7 machine. Not really appropriate in my opinion. It's got a Cirrus Logic video card, so no 3D acceleration, and in my opinion, a Socket 7 machine deserves a 3D accelerated video card. For the sound card, it's got a Creative Labs Sound Blaster CT2940. It's the plug-and-play version of the Sound Blaster 16. I believe it's called the Vibra 16. It's got a D-Link 10 megabit Ethernet card, and it's got a Rockwell modem. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove all the expansion cards. I'm going to remove the motherboards, and I think, yeah, I'm going to keep the hard drives in them because I'm going to reinstall Windows on these 2 machines anyway, and this one I won't have to reinstall Windows because the end configuration for this one's not going to be too much different from the current one. Although I might decide to reinstall MS-DOS and Windows anyway, I'm not sure. So, pull all the expansion cards, pull the motherboards. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you something because this is important if you ever work on an AT machine. AT motherboards and power supplies have 2 connectors. They're labeled P8 and P9 usually, and it's possible to put P8 where P9 is supposed to go and P9 where P8 is supposed to go, and if you do that you destroy your motherboard. So take care that they go in the right place. I don't think motherboards are usually marked where P8 goes and where P9 goes. I think you're just going to go by the color of the wires. So like this one, the one on the left, which I don't know if that's P8 or P9, but the one on the left has, you know, orange, red, yellow, green, black, black, and then the one on the right goes black, black, yellow, red, red, orange. Is it the same on these ones? Orange? Yeah, actually it seems to be pretty standardized. One with one set of colors goes on the left, and one with another set of colors goes on the right. Anyway, just take care of what goes where when you're dealing with these machines. Alright, and yes, I did get the serial port cables off, so we just gotta yank her out. Oh, I forgot to pull the... No, we're not ready. I gotta pull these off. Too bad these M919 motherboards didn't have an onboard beeper, so you could plug the speaker into the sound card instead and have internal actual sound. There you go. There's what a baby AT motherboard looks like. Do not use Pentium module on this slot, only 486 type, otherwise void warranty. And there you get a good look at the two different types of RAM that are in this motherboard. So there's that. I will put that right here. So that is this done. On to the next one. What I'll actually do is I'll let you guys take a look at the two different versions of the PC chips M919 motherboard. So this is version 3.4, which was on the Turbo 486, and this is version 3.2, which was in the Atlantic. Do they have the same chipsets? Yes, they do. Let's turn them around here. They're upside down. There we go. So, pretty much the same. Floppy, 2 IDE, 3 PCI, 4 ISA with 1 VESA. They both have the cache slot. Sockets in all the same. Everything's in all the same places. They do have the same chipset and Southbridge. They have different numbers on the BIOS. The model is the same. It's AMI BIOS, copyright 1993, American Megatrends, 486 PCI ISA. But then this number at the bottom here, I don't know if it's a serial number or what, but they're different. The build date, going by the latest date between the Northbridge and the Southbridge, on this board is this one. The later version, made in 35th week of 1996. And on this one, Southbridge is also the latest date, so the older version of the board was made the 9th week of 1996. So the older version is physically older than the newer version. Not by much though, just a few months. And oh, the serial port headers are in a different location. And here's the fake cache chips in all their glory. If we get in the light right, they say right back and they have fake numbers on them. And one of the numbers is a date code of 1995. 128 LQF makes it look like it's 128 kilobytes. This one does not have the fake cache, you can see. And I've been told that these traces, they are real metal traces, but they go nowhere. They just run in circles around the board. It's kind of dumb. So, yeah, serial port headers are in a different location. Parallel port headers the same. All the jumpers appear to be the same. And that's about it. So now we will pull that one apart. So there's the last motherboard. Again, a baby AT motherboard, same form factor as the 486 ones. We got 4 PCI slots and 4 ISA slots on this one. 2 IDE, floppy, parallel serials. I'm not even pointing the camera. Parallel serials. 4 72-pin RAM slots, power connector, AT keyboard port, and quite a few SIS chips there. We have a socket for something. I don't know if it would be for more cache or an option ROM or what. Intel 82837. No, 82371. And there's that. Alright, so now I got to explain what parts I want to put in what case. Well, first of all, the socket 7's pretty easy. It's going in the Atlantic computer case. Second, I've got these two 486 motherboards, almost identical but not quite. I have decided, here's what I've decided regarding the two 486 machines. One of them's going to be made up of the best hardware, and it's going to run Windows 95. And the other's going to be made up of the second best hardware, I'll say, and it'll run MS-DOS and Windows 3.1. I want this tower case to be the Windows 95 machine, just because mini towers, you know, they're more associated with newer, more modern computers than these big horizontal desktop cases are. So this is going to be the Windows 95 machine. This is going to be the MS-DOS machine, as it always has. So that is going to have the better of the two 486 motherboards. And I say that the better of the two 486 motherboards is this one, the one that was originally in the Turbo 486, because it has 4 72-pin RAM slots, whereas this one has just 2 and then the 30-pin RAM slots. So I call this the better motherboard. This is going in the mini tower case. This motherboard is going in the desktop case. As for processors, you know, we've got an AMD AM5X86 and a Cyrix CX5X86. And, you know, I want to put the better of the two processors in the Windows 95 machine, and I'm calling the Cyrix the better of the two processors. So this processor is going to go into this motherboard, which is going into this case. This processor is going into this motherboard, which is going into that case. So I will do that right now. I'm not going to film it. I'll be back when I have all the motherboards and their appropriate processors installed. And beware, with the 486 motherboards, you have to manually tell it which CPU is installed with these jumpers, so I gotta configure those as well. And just while I have it out, here's the AMD AM5X86 P75 processor, called the P75 because it was equivalent in integer performance to a 75 MHz Pentium. Made 37th week of 1996, and it's the ADW version, which was the lowest tier version. There were ADW, ADY, and ADZ versions, and the ADY version had higher heat and stress tolerance than the ADW, and the ADZ was better than the ADY. The ADZ parts are sought after because, of course, they take better overclocking. Some people have run ADZ parts as fast as 200 megahertz. In contrast, I've barely been able to get this ADW to run at 150. Oh, frick. For some reason, I couldn't imagine something going wrong. This thing can't fit. Past there, I can't get the motherboard in. Oh, frig. There's only one thing that I could possibly do to fit this motherboard in there, is to move the hard drive up a slot and shift the fan as far to the left of the heatsink as I can go, and it might fit. I'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, this whole thing is off. I can swap the 486 motherboards. Well, no, because one of the 486 motherboards is supposed to go in that case, and while I can do that, then I have nothing to fit this motherboard in. I don't know. This whole thing might be called off, but I'll give it a try. Wow, even the heatsink just barely clears the drive cage. Actually, it is physically touching it. I am just slightly starting to regret this now. Wow. To every computer enthusiast watching this video, I am so sorry. Wow, that was certainly a thing. Well, I got everything all hooked up here. This is going to be the most inadequately cooled Cyrix 6X86 ever. Now let's plug it in and see if it blows the hell up. So I'll stick a video card in here and we'll try it out. Alright, random video card stuck in, TV connected to it, it's plugged in, and let's see if this thing blows the frack up. It's actually not turning on. Oh yes it is. Okay, never mind. The power LED's hooked up wrong. And no boot, which isn't good. We have life. I forgot, when you if you accidentally put the floppy or IDE cables backwards, this motherboard won't post. Other motherboards will, this one does not. So it's working. I just had some cables backwards. Also, the power LED is not working. Does the reset button work? Yes, it does. So I gotta fix the power LED. That is the one labeled power LED. So evidently that has to turn around. I looked at the photo, I thought I had it right. I think I had it on the wrong connector. What the heck? Okay, I'm not getting a power LED for some reason. Okay, wrong spot, let's try again. Nope, that's not it. Oh, green wire goes towards the outside. Man, my least favorite part of installing motherboards is figuring out all the case wiring. Ta-da! Alright. We won't have any more turbo light, but oh well. Alright, try number 2 with all the drives hooked up. Floppy drive's hooked up backwards, I know that already. See if I got the hard drive and optical drives right. And evidently my hard drive activity LEDs hooked up backwards. So I will fix that. Also, it's not posting. Ah yes, I have an IDE cable backwards, so I will fix that. Alright, I think I got it now. Let's see. Looks like I do. Yeah, detect the hard drive. Oh, floppy disk fail. Oh. See, this floppy drive's really finicky. Like, sometimes it'll act like the cable's backwards, and then it turns out the cable's actually not backwards. I've tried different cables. It's just the drive itself's really weird for some reason. I'll see if I can get that working. Wow, that took like 2 hours longer than it should have total. I finally got this computer working. Or, yeah, put together correctly, and it's working. So, I'm not gonna choose what expansion cards I'm gonna put in it yet. I just stuck in a random video card for testing. I'm gonna take that back out, and we're gonna put together the other 2 computers, finally. Now, in putting the mini tower together, I got the motherboard in, and I'm putting all the case wiring on, and we come back to the problem that I originally had when I first got the Turbo 486 and discovered its turbo button wasn't hooked up. These cases have a turbo switch with 3 leads on it, and the motherboard only has a 2 lead switch, so I need to use the orange and black wires, and I gotta cut that white wire off. I have to cut the actual plastic thing off so as to make it smaller so it fits. The only problem is I don't have my wire cutters here, which is what I would use to do that. So I'll probably have to leave the turbo disconnected for now until I get my wire cutters, and then I can cut the switch, part of the switch off, and it'll fit. Or do that because I'm lazy. Alright, now I can test and see if this thing blows the hell up. Bottoms up. Floppy drive's connected backwards. Hard drive's not spinning up, which is worrisome. And it's not posting. Oh, I know why the hard drive might not be spinning up. I probably have the IDE cable backwards too, because some hard drives refuse to spin up when the IDE's backwards. So I'll flip the IDE, flip the floppy, and then we'll see. That's slightly worrisome. Maybe the optical drive's cable is backwards. So I'll turn that around and see if that makes a difference. Dang it, I don't get it. Let me just yank the cables and see if it posts. If it posts, we're alright. If it doesn't, we're not. That's doing something. This is kind of worrisome. Aha! See, what I thought was the hard drive cable was actually the floppy drive cable. So the hard drive cable was backwards, and look at that. Perfect. Well, now I've got a whole new problem to try and figure out. I cannot get my serial mouse to work anymore, either on this computer or the mini tower, which I have finished. Yeah, I thought at first, I first noticed it on the mini tower. I thought, well, okay, I have, the serial port headers backwards. Turn them the other way, and no, mouse still didn't work. And I thought, well, darn, maybe I killed my mouse. But no, I put it on another computer, which has hardwired serial ports, and it worked just fine. So, both computers, I can't get that mouse to work anymore. I don't know what the heck's going on. But I don't even know. It's late at night now. I don't believe this. What should have been a 2-hour job at most has turned into, let's see, I started at 5:30, it's now 11:30, 6 hours I've been at this. I don't know what the heck's going on, but I guess I'll pick it up tomorrow. Oh my god, I think I just figured out my mouse problem. It's the most dumbest thing ever. It's just a theory. I haven't tried anything yet. I swapped the motherboards in all these cases, but I did not swap these things. I assumed they'd be identical, but maybe they're not. Maybe, since the motherboard from that case is now here, the parallel and serial connectors from that case have to be transplanted over here as well. I will try it. Wow, that was actually it. And, these parallel and serial connectors, even though they're different motherboards, they all use the same type of connector. The connectors meant for the M919 motherboard, they fit in this socket 7 motherboard, but they're not electrically compatible. That's really dumb, but you know what? Those were the days. So, unfortunately, this particular case has the serial ports screwed into the case itself rather than being on an expansion slot. So, I don't have my tools here to unscrew these things and unscrew these ones, so I can screw these in there and then put those in this. So I might have to wait till I get home and get my tools, and then I'll be able to do that. Well, I was able to use inappropriate tools to swap the parallel and serial connectors between this case and that one. And the mouse works on both machines, so that's awesome. And yeah, so there you go. If you ever have one of these AT machines that have the parallel and serial ports connect to headers on the motherboard, even though any random set of connectors might fit on the headers, they might not be electrically compatible, so take note of that. And wow, I better call it a night, because I started this crap tearing these computers apart at around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, and I thought I'd be done at like 7 o'clock, maybe 8, and it's now 2:15 in the morning, and oh my god, I just slightly regret ever taking on this project, but at least it's slowly making progress. So Turbo 486 still has to be put back together. And then once I do that, we will select expansion cards for all 3 of these computers, video, sound, network, etc. And then we'll wrap this thing up. This is an IBM model. I forget what they called this. I think it was called the 5155, I think. This is the IBM PC Portable. The motherboard was manufactured by DTK. I think I've heard of them before. Did some reading, and as far as I've read, they made pretty good motherboards. I don't know if they're still around or not.